we're just traveling through the Dordogne region of France.
We're going to give you an overview and information and tips for planning your own trip to this region, with the added bonus of a visit to Rocamadour. The Dordogne region sits between the Loire Valley and the Pyrenees Mountains.
You will find three principal towns in the Dordogne.
Bergerac in the southwest, Sarlat La Canéda in the southeast, and the Perigeux further north.
People visit the Dordogne region to enjoy not only the Dordogne River and the scenery, but they also enjoy the food. There are numerous caves there with prehistoric drawings, and then last but not least to visit the chateaux.
Yes, there are reputed to be over 1,001 castles and chateaux. However, you should note that some percentage of those chateaux are in ruins due to the 100 Years' War that took place between England and France in this area.
But there are several that are very well preserved, and we'll show just a couple of them that we were able to visit on our trip.
Yeah, some of those were so high up on cliffs that nobody could reach them.
We chose to stay in Sarlat La Canéda, often simply referred to as Sarlat.
Sarlat is located about 210 kilometers west of Bordeaux, which would require about 2.5 hours or so to drive there. If you're traveling from Paris, it's 527 kilometers, which would take a minimum of 6 hours. You could always take a train from Paris to Bordeaux and then drive from there.
You can see on the map that we're showing, the dots in green are where the different caves are that you can visit. The dots in blue are some of the castles that we're going to show you, and then the yellow in the middle is where Sarlat is. So you can see it was well situated for the things that we wanted to visit while we were there. You'll need to have a car to explore the Dordogne region, so familiarize yourself with driving in France. We have some tips for driving in France in our Loire Valley overview video and on our website, so check those out if you plan to go. The links will be in the description.
Sarlat is renowned for its exceptionally well-preserved architecture and is considered one of France's best examples of a 14th century town. The architecture includes numerous well-preserved Renaissance and Gothic buildings, as well as an impressive cathedral.
As is usual in these towns in the heart of France, parking is not always the easiest. There is some free lots in the area outside of the old town, and then there's some pay spaces scattered throughout as well.
Yeah, like Celeste said, when you're in a village like this, parking can be difficult. We stayed in this VRBO rental right in the center of the old town. Celeste had found it on VRBO, and it was directly across from the cathedral, and the location could not be beat. We were footsteps away from pubs, ice cream shops, restaurants, and the cathedral.
Yeah, there was grocery stores right in town. Usually when you stay in an old town, you have to be careful because parking isn't always very easy. In this particular case, the owners had parking, and they came and picked us up at the parking garage and then drove us over to the place so that we could get our luggage in and everything. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, very secure parking. The car was locked away. We didn't have to worry about any kind of crime activity at all.
There was also frequently street musicians playing. Since we were right in the heart of Old Town, we could hear things going on outside our window.
Yeah, as you can see in this picture here, we could just open our windows and enjoy the sounds wafting up from the courtyard below.
And if you don't want to stay in a Verbo, there's numerous hotels in the area. The map above shows you where some of those are. We did walk by the Hotel Plaza Madeleine à Sarlat a number of times, and it's a 4-star hotel. I think it has parking on the edge of town. It was very well situated, so that might be a good option. It gets good reviews. Sarlat is also famous for its bustling markets, which have been going on for centuries, where you can sample the region's food, including truffles, foie gras, and walnut products. The market takes place on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Try to plan your trip around being there on market day. It was really cool. They had local sausages and cheeses and
wine, bread, and
everything you can think of was there at the market.
You can see in our video here that it was a very popular thing to do. People came from miles around, including all of the local travelers Everybody's having a good time, and there's just everything under the sun for sale there.
One of the biggest attractions of this region is obviously the Dordogne River itself.
Very, very scenic.
There are numerous chateaux along the river, including Chateau Beynac, Chateau Milandes. There's truffle orchards. The region itself is known for truffle hunting.
The wine. The valley is part of the Bergerac wine region, producing a variety of wines, including those made from the local Bergerac and Montbazillac grape varieties. And as you can see in some of our images, it's a very popular destination for canoeing and kayaking enthusiasts.
One day on our way to Beynac, we ended up running across a canoe rental place along the river, and we stopped, and it was really pretty, and we weren't prepared to actually go canoeing that day, but I think that's one of our biggest regrets. We didn't actually do that in the region, and I think it would have been really fun if we had.
It would have. In fact, the place we stopped at was just so darn scenic that you had to stop and get a few pictures. And while we were there, we noticed that we could have, for example, rented a canoe, paddled down the river to Beynac, and then they would have brought us back.
Yeah, so you can see in the map above, this is, it's called Loisir, I believe.
Canoe Loisir.
And you can start and stop from different places, and they tell you how long it takes you to get from place to place and different pricing. But this is definitely a must-do if you're up for it on a beautiful day in the summertime or in the fall. It was spring for that matter, but it was really cool, and we just hung out there for a little while. It's too bad that we really weren't prepared to.
Yeah, the river there is stunning, so it would have been a great Kodak moment.
Chateau Beynac was one of the highlights of our trip. It's perched atop a limestone cliff with strategic views of the Dordogne Valley.
It was actually constructed by the barons of Beynac to control traffic on the river. And with that commanding position on top of that cliff, they could see the river going in either direction for several miles.
To protect it?
Protect it and collect revenue from people trying to use the river for traffic.
From a logistics perspective, there was a parking lot right out front, but it was pretty small, so you should get there early.
Yeah, there's parking along the river. It's a limited amount, but that would still leave you some 2 kilometers of walk up to the top. You're better off getting there very early and going around behind the chateau and parking there, but that space fills up rapidly.
And tickets were available when we got there.
Yeah, there's an entry booth. Tickets were not available online when we went there.
And from the terraces in the castle, you can see panoramic views of the Dordogne River, the surrounding countryside, and neighboring castles, including Castelnau-la-Chapelle.
There's an interesting history regarding movies done at Beynac. It's been featured in several films, including Chocolat, Joan of Arc, and The Last Duel, starring Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Next on our list is Chateau Milandes, which
is located almost directly south of Beynac. And as you can see in the pictures, it's a beautiful building.
It was originally constructed in the 15th century.
One of the most notable aspects of this is its association with Josephine Baker, a famous American-born French entertainer. She purchased the castle in 1947 and lived there with her large adopted family. She was known for her contributions to the French resistance during World War II and used Milandes to promote cultural understanding and equality.
The castle is known for hosting musical and theatrical performances, which were a significant part of Josephine Baker's vision for the Chateau de Milandes. The shows celebrate diversity and entertain visitors from around the world.
It's also surrounded by beautiful gardens and extensive grounds.
They also have a birds of prey show where visitors can witness the birds in flight, and that was a very popular activity to do when we were there.
In fact, we couldn't get in. There's also a restaurant located next to the building, but it seemed to be very, very popular. And due to the bus tour traffic being so large that day, restaurants and pubs were filled to the brim.
Yeah, we ended up leaving and eating somewhere else, but that doesn't mean it'll be the same for you. We're just letting you know.
Your mileage may vary.
There was a very large parking lot right out front, so that's not an issue from a logistics perspective, and you can get tickets online if you want or at the door.
Yeah, and as usual, you can keep the ticket information on your phone, or you can print it out and just present it to the gate ticket shop.
Next on our list was Domme. Domme is perched on a rocky promontory overlooking the Dordogne River.
Domme is classified as a Bastide town, which refers to a type of fortified medieval town that was quite common in the southwest of France during the 13th and 14th centuries. You can see in the imagery how high Domme sits above the river, so obviously it was constructed to keep an eye on the Dordogne Valley.
This was, it didn't take us too long. We only spent a couple hours here. We looked at the views, walked around the town. They have shops and things to do. They had a cool restaurant where you could sit and look over the
valley,
scenery, the valley, yeah.
It was a hot day, so we actually enjoyed an ice cream there and cooled down.
A lot of people were there with their dogs. It was really pleasant.
For those of you uninitiated, taking your dog to the restaurant is quite popular in France.
Underneath the town lies the Cave of Domme, a network of underground tunnels and chambers that served various purposes throughout history. So next on our list is Rocamadour, which, as we said earlier, isn't actually in the Dordogne. It's actually in the Occitane region. But it was so close, and we had seen so many images of it that we wanted to visit. It's a really cool medieval village perched dramatically on a limestone cliff. It dates back to the Middle Ages, and it has been a site of pilgrimage for centuries, attracting travelers from all over Europe. The village is renowned for its sanctuaries and religious buildings.
The first chapel was built at Rocamadour in approximately 1105, and they've been building ever since. The area now receives over 1.5 million visitors per year, even though the village has a daytime population of 650.
The sanctuaries of Rocamadour are a complex of religious structures built into the cliffs. Pilgrims climb the grand staircase to reach the chapels, each dedicated to a different saint. Now, we did this walk backwards. We started at the top and then we walked down. Partially because Carrie has trouble walking. Going down was easier
and we
than
were
going
parked
up.
at the top of the cliff.
We were parked at the top. But it was fascinating that trip around. You'll see in some of our images, there were just all these little chapels, and you can envision the pilgrims coming up and praying at each one as they rose.
Yeah, in fact, at various levels, you'll see in some of our images there, it looked to be like an altar, and those are places where the religious folk would stop and pray for the saint that altar was dedicated to.
I would say Rocamadour was a highlight of the trip.
It was. There's nothing like it anywhere else we've ever been. It's extremely unique, built in the side of a cliff, and the views from there are awesome.
And it's in such good condition, and you can walk all through the different levels. And then they actually have, so from a logistics perspective, they have an elevator that will bring you back up. I mentioned that we walked down. They did have l'ascenseur, an elevator that would bring you back up to the top. So that was handy for us if anyone out there has mobility issues.
Yeah, no, it was kind of nice because it was a very hot day and we enjoyed the ride up. One final note on the history of this part of France. The wars that have gone on there have been almost continuous from the year probably 600 forward. In fact, the Vikings raided quite frequently throughout the 8th and 9th century, and they used the Dordogne River to travel considerable distance into France. For example, between 845 and 849 AD, the Vikings attacked and seized Bordeaux, Perigueux, and the surrounding areas all the way up to Rocamadour.
If you liked our video, please check out our other videos and like and subscribe.